What is up, everybody? I am Mason from the Mockbuster YouTube channel, and today's a bit of a different video. It's kind of a discussion video. If you've read the title, I've always had this, or I think it's down here or down here. I don't know. I've been on YouTube for so long, I don't even remember where the titles are. I had this big question on whether MCU films, modern day superhero films, are they worth it on a 4K Blu-ray like this or like this? Because they're CGI heavy films with a 2K DI render. So I just wanted to know. But with nowadays technologies, with the whole Imax enhanced on Disney Plus, and Disney Plus really killing it out of the park with their streaming service, I wanted to finally get down with the nitty gritty and find out for myself, are MCU films worth it on 4K Blu-ray, or are you good with just the stream? So I'm going to be talking about 3 criterias before getting into these tests. I have a little thing ready, so if you see me looking off to the side, I'm actually reading a thing I wrote up, because I want to sound as best as possible. I don't want to just ramble. So first off, I want to be talking about the whole concept of real 4K versus fake 4K. Now this is a huge discussion topic in the 4K forums, the AV forums, on whether, modern day movies, are they really worth it on 4K Blu-ray because of the whole 2K DI thing, and I'll get into it deeper. So basically, in short, a 4K movie that is a fake 4K is a movie that has a digital intermediate of either 2K or less. Now this is in part due to the complexity of computer generated imagery and how long it would take for a scene to render. Case in point, the computer generated black hole in Interstellar, like that beautiful shot, and they show Matthew McConaughey like looking and gazing upon it. That took 120 fucking hours to render one goddamn frame. 120 hours to render one frame. In other terms, it took 5 days to render a single frame. And if you guys don't know, a movie is usually 24 frames per second on like a 3-4 minute scene. Now, I couldn't imagine how long that would take. I mean, I could if I did the calculator math, but besides that, that's a lot of time and money for studios to really invest into a movie. Now, obviously, they're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars back, but they're 24 frames a second, 120 hours a frame. That's going to be crazy. Now, I couldn't even imagine if it was in 4K, rendered in 4K, that would be like double the time. That, like, I feel like they'd still be rendering it right now. So anyways, even if the movie was, because I know Interstellar was shot on 70mm IMAX, it was still rendered down to 2K. So as you can guess, a lot of the MCU films are kind of filmed in 2K or higher, but due to its huge reliance on CGI for its surreal storytelling, its final render is always usually 2K, especially when it comes, especially when their villain Thanos is a freaking CGI, is an entirely CGI created like villain. So real 4K, when you talk about real 4K, I guess you can say is a movie with a limitless intermediate, like i.e. like old films, so old movies, and that is because they usually don't have CGI or not that much CGI, especially if you're going from 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and a first bit of the 90s. You can tell because there's a lot of reliance on practical effects, and that's why I usually prefer to get 4K movies for older films. Like my favorite 4Ks are Mad Max 1, The Shining, that looked really good in 4K, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and a bunch of Kubrick films. All the Kubrick films look amazing in 4K, but that's because there's no CGI reliance, so there was no digital intermediate where they needed to. I think they just cut the film, did some editing, and then played the film reel. So that's why I usually prefer. So that's the difference between real 4K and fake 4K. So a lot of people would say that MCU films are fake 4K. Now next is a big deal breaker when it comes to a lot of people, because IMAX Enhanced is good, but what if you don't have internet for shit, or like what if your internet's really bad? So I'm gonna be talking about that. So to stream 4K quality content, ideally you would need about a download speed of 25 megabits per second minimum, but ideally I would say 50 megabytes per second is preferred to not experience like heavy buffering and quality issues. Like sometimes you'll dip in quality. I've noticed that sometimes in my streams, but unfortunately the national average is actually about 42.86, at least for the United States. I'm not too sure about every other country, but in the United States, the national average internet speed is about 42.86 megabits per second, which is doable, but some people might stumble upon buffer related quality issues. I myself, again, have had those experiences, even though my internet is insanely good. Like, I think it's like at a 485 megabits per second Wi-Fi. I'm not too sure. I have no idea about Wi-Fi and stuff. I just did the whole like download thing, and that's what it came up to. But again, like, Wi-Fi is so unpredictable, especially during these times, which I feel like ever since the lockdown, Wi-Fi has been all wonky and stuff. So connection issues is always a problem, and stability problems they're always a factor when it comes to streaming on a streaming services where you can't really download. Like, you can download on Netflix, you can download on the mobile app, but you can't really download to your TV or to your system. So now I want to preface that I am in Canada and we have laboriously terrible internet. So you might not be experiencing buffering issues, but I definitely experienced buffering issues. So yeah, just to go with that. So even if the stars align and your internet is good, bad connection problems might take you down from 4K to, like, I've experienced maybe 240p, 480p in a matter of like a few seconds. But for me, it usually goes away after 15 minutes into actually in the movie of watching. So I feel like, because that's when like it's downloaded, most of it, not downloaded, but like, you know what I mean, it's buffered out, the thing. So, which is a plus for physical discs, because all of the data is already stored onto a 100 gigabyte disc. And I know, because even though I know that Disney owned properties don't really fully utilize that format, they usually only use about 60 gigs worth of space. Things such as buffering and other connectivity issues will not be a problem on an actual, like, physical disc, because what are you going to download on this? Once it starts doing that, then it's the death of I believe that's the death of physical media. Now, when it comes to a 4K Blu-ray disc, as I said, you get 100 gigabytes of working space. So for publishers to work around and port info onto a disc. When it comes to a streaming service such as Disney Plus, information is constantly being downloaded. And again, as I stated before, you can't really download any movies onto your like TV or anything through the app. So you're going to be constantly downloading information, and it's going to be heavily compressed so that you can actually be able to have a watchable movie, instead of, because like I believe if it was an actual 4K constantly like downloading at 4K with full fidelity, it would be buffering every 30 seconds. I saw like a Marquez Brownlee video, and he talked all about that. If you want to watch that video, check out 4K processing on Marquez Brownlee's channel. I highly recommend it. So as I said, the film will be heavily compressed to be able to perform at a certain rate that doesn't annoy subscribers. Now, looking into it, it seems that Disney Plus has the best as a 4K stream with Dolby Atmos. It uses about 8 gigabytes an hour, which other things like Amazon Prime Video, Paramount Plus, and Netflix, their 4K streams are about 7 gigs an hour. So you're gonna get that extra gig. So it's actually better and compulsory to its competitors. Now it's the big elephant in the room, and this was actually a deciding factor for me to stop actually buying 4Ks, MCU 4Ks, was that the Imax Enhanced. Now, Imax Enhanced was recently introduced, maybe I believe 10 days ago, 12 days ago, and for a few of its MCU titles, which I have right here, and it includes Ant-Man and the Wasp, Avengers Endgame, Infinity War, Black Panther, Black Widow, Civil War, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Thor Ragnarok. So that's why I also got Spider-Man, because there was no IMAX enhanced. Might as well So just to talk about what IMAX Enhance is, IMAX Enhance basically changes the aspect ratio of IMAX. Since IMAX traditionally uses a square 143 by 1 format, the expanded aspect ratio is about 190 by 1, which is relatively close to the 16 by 9 ratio of modern day TVs. Marvel movies are genuinely presented in wider letterbox aspect ratios, which are the aspect ratios found on a physical media, on a physical disc versions of the film. But many of more modern MCU films feature some 190 by 1 sequences. Even the Dark Knight is known for its big IMAX full letterbox full screen scenes. A lot of the MCU films feature some 190 by 1 sequences captured with IMAX certified cameras for a taller picture for IMAX theaters. Movies such as Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame were entirely shot on IMAX film, so the entire movie is going to be 190 by 1. And that's why I'll be taking a look at Infinity War on 4K Blu-ray and comparing it to the newer IMAX Enhanced Disney Plus version, and to see if it's worth shelling out $30 for a 4K, or if you're good with just the stream. And and for funsies, I'll also be comparing the standard Blu-ray of Endgame, just to see if there's any differences, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, 4K streams don't really mean shit, because after it's all the compression and all that stuff, it's just gonna look like a 1080p Blu-ray. I know Films at Home, he compared the Criterion 4K of The Irishman, comparing it to the 4K stream on Netflix to the Criterion standard Blu-ray, and he said they basically had the same resolution fidelity. So I'm gonna take a look. I'm gonna go downstairs. I'm gonna use this phone because I feel like you can't really hide behind screen captures and everything. So even if you won't be able to notice the HDR, you'll be able to notice the HDR when it comes through my phone, because the phone will notice the different colors and stuff. So I'm gonna go downstairs and look at these two films. I'm gonna shoot some of the scenes which I believe have some of the best imagery that can actually, shell out what IMAX Enhanced is, what HDR is, and all that stuff. Oh, I also forgot to mention that IMAX Enhanced, it's like filmmaker mode in the sense where it doesn't remove contrast or brightness, but it removes all of the extra external fidelity, when it comes to smoothing and the soap opera effect. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna go downstairs to the basement, show you guys a couple scenes, and I'll come back, maybe do some commentary over them. I don't really care if I get copyright claimed, because I've been wondering this video. There's no any video, at least in English. I know some guy in Spain, he's talked about this, but I'm here for the English guys. So yeah, so let's go downstairs. Let's make some popcorn. Let's watch some Avengers films. Let's go, guys. After almost 6 hours of MCU goodness, I can finally say that on paper, the Blu-ray disc is better. Obviously, you could have seen this a mile away. The Blu-ray disc outperforms streaming by 3 to 5%. Streaming promises 4K viewing, but the maximum quality is only about 25 megabits per second, while Blu-rays plays at around 82 to 108 megabits per second. When you buy a physical disc, you're gonna get a whole slew of bonus features that come with a physical disc that are definitely make the purchase more worth it. But I'm gonna be like 100% honest with you guys and say no. In my opinion, it is not worth the 4K disc. But I mean, if you're a huge fan of the MCU films, you love all of that stuff, then maybe having it as a display piece on your shelf would be worth it. But for me, to spend up to $30 on a single film when I can watch a plethora of all Disney-owned properties for a third of the price makes it an easy choice to stick with the Disney Plus streaming service. And I'm also going to be honest with you guys, the biggest thing I've noticed was a tiny bit of artifacting and pixelated motion blur, but if you aren't pixel peeping, you won't really notice this, and it's not really going to hinder your movie watching cinematic experience. And now with IMAX Enhanced and seeing how much of the shot is being cut out on the 4K disc, it's just another nail in the coffin. When it comes to bonus features, I mean, again, we're in the age of the internet and YouTube. That stuff is already out there in the multiverse. So at this point, bonus features are not really worth it because you could just watch it anywhere on YouTube. But again, the biggest differences that I've noticed when it comes to a 4K disc and the Disney Plus stream is that obviously you're going to have the different aspect ratio, as well as there's like a different color grading. As you saw in the film, some shots were bluer, some shots are redder. It was kind of weird. But besides that, that's not that big of a difference to where I couldn't see why you would want to spend more money to get less. So in conclusion, I'd say that you're fine with the Disney Plus stream. You know, you're not getting this enormous leap in quality and when playing a 4K MCU disc, but that's just my opinion from what I have seen and what I've researched. But if you have a different opinion, let me know down below. But let's keep it civil. I mean, we're all here for a common purpose, and it's the love of film and the love of just film and, you know, physical media. So anyways, I have been Mason from the Mockbuster YouTube channel. That is my final opinion when it comes to MCU films. MCU films. I'm not talking about streaming in total, because Lord knows I've seen 2001: A Space Odyssey on a 4K stream and with the Blu-ray disc, and the Blu-ray disc just blows it out of the water. So I'm just talking about MCU films that are like super CGI heavy, to where, you know, there's a 2K DI and it's just being upscaled and it's not real 4K. So, but again, I have been Mason for the Mockbuster YouTube channel. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, night, evening, afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Please stay safe. God bless. Leave a like, comment down below. Let me know what your guys' opinion is on 4K discs versus streaming when it comes to MCU films. And please subscribe. That means a lot to me. And thank you guys. Have a nice day.